Most people never become great because they make excuses for themselves every day. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or someone else to tell them they're ready. The truth is, greatness starts with one simple choice: deciding to stop lying to yourself and take control of your life. It's about facing your weaknesses honestly, doing the hard things that most people avoid, and showing up even when you don't feel confident. It's about building habits quietly, staying consistent when results are invisible, and holding yourself accountable when no one is watching. Imagine what your life could look like if you never broke a promise to yourself. Imagine waking up each day knowing that every action you take is building a stronger, smarter, and more unstoppable version of you. This video will show you exactly how to act, think, and live in a way that creates real greatness. By the end, you won't just understand what it takes, you'll know how to start doing it today and never look back. Chapter 1. Stop lying to yourself and confront who you are. People spend their entire lives building versions of themselves that feel comfortable instead of facing the truth about who they are. Every day presents a chance to look in the mirror and see clearly. Many avoid this moment because the truth is uncomfortable. It exposes weaknesses, excuses, and patterns of avoidance. The first tip to being great is to confront yourself honestly. It is not about punishing yourself or feeling shame. It is about seeing your reality clearly and accepting it without denial. Only when you are fully aware of who you are can you begin to build who you want to become. Human psychology is wired to protect self-image. When people hear the truth about their habits, choices, or mindset, the initial reaction is often resistance. The mind searches for excuses, distractions, and rationalizations. It is easier to blame circumstances or other people than to accept personal responsibility. This instinct slows growth. Greatness requires stepping past that instinct. It requires admitting where effort is lacking, where discipline is missing, and where fear or laziness has dictated choices. Admitting these truths does not make a person weak. It makes a person conscious and prepared for action. Confronting who you are means observing your daily choices with honesty. How do you spend your time? Are you productive, or are you escaping through mindless routines? Are you facing challenges, or are you avoiding them because they feel uncomfortable? Are you nurturing your mind, your body, and your relationships, or are you neglecting them? These questions demand truthful answers. The moment you answer them without softening the reality, you take control of your life. You stop pretending and start operating from clarity. One reason people resist truth is fear of failure. They believe that admitting weakness or limitation is proof they cannot succeed. That belief is false. The ability to face your limitations is a sign of strength. It allows you to create a plan that addresses real obstacles. Pretending everything is fine only delays progress. When you confront the truth, you can design strategies that actually work. Your actions become intentional, focused, and aligned with the results you truly desire. Self-deception is subtle. It hides in small choices and daily excuses. Skipping practice, procrastinating, blaming stress, avoiding feedback, or pretending effort is higher than it is. All of these are lies we tell ourselves. They are convenient, but they cost growth. They keep potential locked behind fear and avoidance. Great people develop awareness of these small self-deceptions. They do not let them accumulate. Each day is an opportunity to notice moments when honesty is easiest to avoid and to choose truth instead. Facing yourself honestly also requires examining your emotions. Many people act on impulse without recognizing how anger, frustration, impatience, or fear drives their behavior. Self-awareness means noticing these emotions as they arise. Observing them gives you a choice. You can react immediately and often poorly, or you can pause and respond thoughtfully. Each moment of conscious choice strengthens character. Over time, emotional control becomes natural. You respond to challenges with clarity rather than letting instinct lead. Recognizing patterns is essential in confronting yourself. Look at past decisions. Where have you repeated mistakes? What triggers consistently lead to unproductive behavior or conflict? Seeing patterns is not an exercise in blame. It is an exercise in preparation. Once patterns are clear, you can intervene deliberately. You can anticipate reactions, change responses, and redirect energy into productive behavior. This pattern recognition is one of the foundations of personal mastery. Confronting yourself also includes observing your internal dialogue. What stories do you tell yourself about what is possible? What limitations do you reinforce silently? The mind listens to the language you use internally. Doubt, fear, and excuses weaken progress. Honest self-reflection replaces these narratives with clarity. It allows you to see what actions are necessary, which habits are holding you back, and where consistent effort will produce results. Accountability is a critical part of facing yourself. You cannot achieve greatness without owning your choices. External blame keeps responsibility away from your hands. Great people take responsibility for their successes and failures. They review decisions, recognize errors, and adjust without needing external approval. Accountability transforms mistakes into lessons. It makes every failure an opportunity to learn rather than a reason to quit. Facing yourself also develops courage. It is difficult to admit that effort is lacking, that fear influences decisions, or that priorities have been misplaced. Confronting these realities requires bravery. It requires persistence in truth even when it feels uncomfortable. Courage in self-honesty produces confidence. It gives you the power to act decisively, to take risks that are necessary for growth, and to maintain direction despite fear or uncertainty. Self-confrontation sharpens focus. When the truth is clear, priorities become obvious. Wasted energy, distractions, and meaningless habits stand out. You gain the ability to allocate attention to actions that produce results. You stop drifting. Your mind becomes a tool rather than a passenger. This focus is what allows great people to achieve what others only dream about. Consistency follows honesty. Once you know where effort is required, consistent action solidifies change. Sporadic attempts are insufficient. Greatness demands daily decisions, aligned with truth. Each honest choice, each moment of effort, compounds over time. That is how small, disciplined actions create substantial transformation. Facing yourself also fosters resilience. When challenges arise, you already know your strengths and weaknesses. You understand how fear, impatience, or frustration can influence your behavior. You can predict difficulties and respond proactively. That preparation allows you to recover quickly from setbacks. Resilience grows because the mind has been trained to respond with clarity rather than panic or avoidance. Self-awareness improves decision-making. Decisions made under illusions or false narratives are often poor. Decisions grounded in truth are aligned with reality. They consider strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities. They are rational, deliberate, and effective. People who confront themselves honestly make better choices because they see the full picture clearly. Confronting yourself strengthens integrity. When you are honest internally, your actions align with values. You stop acting differently in private than in public. That alignment fosters trust, both in yourself and from others. People are drawn to integrity because it signals reliability. Greatness requires influence, and influence is built on trust. Truth with yourself is the first step in establishing credibility. Facing yourself also requires patience. Change does not happen overnight. Confronting habits, biases, fears, and weaknesses is a slow process. You may stumble, avoid the truth, or revert to old behaviors. Patience allows you to continue even when progress is not immediate. It cultivates persistence and steadiness. These qualities are essential in achieving long-term goals. The process of self-confrontation is ongoing. It is not a one-time event. Each day provides new insights, challenges, and opportunities to evaluate choices. Life changes, circumstances shift, and new weaknesses appear. Continuous honesty ensures that adaptation occurs, maintaining alignment between intention and action. Greatness is a lifelong commitment to observing reality and responding effectively. Emotional intelligence grows from confronting yourself. Understanding how your reactions influence your environment allows you to navigate social and professional situations more effectively. You respond rather than react. You negotiate without aggression. You lead without dominance. Self-honesty improves interpersonal relationships and strengthens the influence that comes from competence and character rather than force or authority. The sensory experience of self-confrontation is undeniable. There is tension when truths are recognized, a pulse quickening when uncomfortable realizations emerge. There is also clarity, a release, and calm when decisions are made with honesty. The body and mind react to recognition of reality. Listening to these cues helps maintain awareness and reinforces conscious action. Finally, confronting yourself generates freedom. Freedom from excuses, freedom from guilt, freedom from fear of judgment. When you see yourself clearly, you control your direction. You choose effort over avoidance, action over procrastination, and responsibility over blame. Each day, choices build upon truth, creating momentum that is unstoppable. Greatness is not accidental, it is the result of deliberate, honest evaluation and consistent action based on that awareness. It requires the willingness to face who you are, recognize areas of growth, and commit to changing them steadily. Each truthful assessment, each moment of self-discipline, each acknowledgement of weakness strengthens character. That character becomes the foundation for achievements, influence, and lasting impact. Honesty with yourself is the starting point of all transformation. Without it, effort is misdirected, motivation fades, and growth is limited. With it, effort becomes meaningful, results become predictable, and confidence grows naturally. The path to greatness begins when you stop lying to yourself. It begins when you see clearly who you are, understand your habits, acknowledge your emotions, and take responsibility for the choices that shape your life. From that place, everything changes. The decision to confront yourself is also a commitment to action. Awareness without action is useless. Each insight gained through honesty must translate into deliberate steps forward. Weaknesses must be addressed. Habits must be improved. Skills must be developed. Relationships must be strengthened. Each day becomes a test of integrity, effort, and self-mastery. Confronting who you are allows for strategic planning. When truth is clear, priorities can be set. Time can be invested wisely. Energy can be focused where it produces the greatest results. You stop reacting to life and start shaping it intentionally. This strategy is impossible without seeing reality, without distortion. Over time, self-honesty changes identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who avoids effort or hides from truth. You see yourself as capable, responsible, and resilient. Identity shifts from excuses to ownership. This shift fuels further action, confidence, and results. It builds momentum that compounds with every honest decision. In summary, greatness begins with stopping lies to yourself and confronting reality fully. It requires awareness of habits, emotions, and thought patterns. It demands accountability, patience, courage, and consistency. It strengthens focus, resilience, emotional intelligence, and decision-making. It creates freedom, integrity, and confidence. It builds identity based on truth. Everything else, skill, influence, achievement grows naturally from this foundation.
Honesty is the first step toward becoming the person capable of living a life that is meaningful, productive, and truly great. When you confront yourself without excuses, the path forward is clear. When you take responsibility for every choice and action, momentum builds. When effort aligns with truth consistently, results become inevitable. That is what it takes to be great.
Chapter 2. Do hard things daily to build inner strength. True strength is not built in comfort. It is formed in moments where you push yourself beyond what feels easy, where effort exceeds desire for convenience, and where action takes priority over hesitation. Most people live their lives seeking comfort. They avoid struggle, escape hard decisions, and limit themselves to what feels safe. That pattern produces mediocrity. Real greatness, real inner strength, emerges when you choose to do hard things consistently, even when every part of you wants to avoid them. Doing hard things is not occasional, it is daily. It is the rhythm of self-discipline practiced over time that transforms character, mindset, and resilience. Human nature is drawn to ease. The mind resists tension, effort, and discomfort. The body prefers rest. The emotions want pleasure. This is why growth is rare. Every time you confront this natural resistance, you are building capacity. You are teaching yourself that you can endure challenge, and that effort is not something to fear, but something to embrace as a tool for development. Doing hard things daily rewires your perception of struggle, shifting it from a burden into a stepping stone. Inner strength begins with small, deliberate choices. It is not about one monumental effort, but about accumulating consistent acts of courage and discipline. Waking up earlier than desired, taking on tasks others avoid, speaking truth when lies feel easier, staying focused when distraction tempts you. These are all hard choices. Each one strengthens your mind, your character, and your ability to handle more challenging circumstances in the future. Strength compounds quietly, almost unnoticed, until one day it becomes visible in every area of life. Doing hard things daily also trains patience and persistence. When you commit to effort in the moment, you practice endurance. You discover that initial resistance is temporary and that persistence creates results. Every task completed under tension reinforces the understanding that obstacles are not walls but opportunities to grow. This realization changes the way you approach life. Challenges no longer intimidate. They become exercises in capability and self-reliance. Discomfort is a teacher. It shows you your limits and then expands them. The body experiences fatigue and the mind experiences doubt when undertaking hard work. The emotional system craves relief, but choosing action in spite of that craving strengthens mental fortitude. Every day you push through difficulty, your brain becomes more tolerant of challenge. You are able to sustain focus, make better decisions under pressure, and respond calmly when life becomes complex or unpredictable. Many people avoid hard things because of fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, or fear of the unknown keeps them stagnant. Confronting hard tasks daily forces you to manage that fear. You learn that fear signals growth, not danger. You discover that your mind is capable of far more than you previously believed. Each time you choose effort over avoidance, confidence builds quietly. This confidence is not loud or flashy. It is the steady belief in your capacity to meet demands and overcome obstacles. Doing hard things is also about consistency. Strength is not tested in single heroic acts, but in repeated disciplined behavior. Daily actions shape habits, habits shape character, and character shapes destiny. Each day that you take on effort, each challenge you accept, each decision to resist easy paths strengthens the neural pathways that support endurance, self-control, and strategic action. Over time, consistency transforms difficult actions into second nature. Hard work develops focus. The act of pushing through resistance requires concentration and presence. The mind cannot wander when effort demands attention. By engaging fully, you train awareness, clarity, and precision. This mental discipline carries over into every area of life. Tasks that once seemed overwhelming become manageable. Decisions that once felt stressful are approached methodically. The ability to maintain focus under difficulty is a cornerstone of inner strength. Inner strength also grows through accountability. When you undertake hard things, you commit to outcomes that require responsibility. Avoiding challenges allows excuses to flourish. Facing them demands ownership of your actions, results, and impact. Each time you accept responsibility in the context of effort, you reinforce self-trust. You prove to yourself that you are reliable and capable. That self-trust is the foundation of confidence and influence. Doing hard things develops resilience. Life inevitably presents challenges, setbacks, and unexpected obstacles. Daily effort in difficult tasks is practice for these inevitable moments. You learn to persist when conditions are unfavorable, to adapt when plans fail, and to recover quickly when mistakes happen. Resilience becomes a habit. The mind no longer collapses under pressure because it has been trained to respond constructively rather than reactively. Another dimension of inner strength comes from physical discipline. Daily effort often requires using the body in ways that feel uncomfortable. Exercise, movement, or simply sustaining effort when fatigue is present teaches endurance. The body and mind are connected. Physical mastery under challenge reinforces mental and emotional resilience. Each time you push past physical discomfort, you reinforce the understanding that limits are often perceived rather than real. Doing hard things daily also sharpens decision-making. Difficult tasks present opportunities to evaluate priorities, choose strategies, and manage resources. The more you practice making decisions under pressure, the more effective you become. You develop clarity in what actions produce results and which distract from progress. Over time, decision-making becomes faster, more accurate, and more aligned with long-term objectives. Effort strengthens self-respect. When you consistently confront difficult tasks, you reinforce personal standards. You stop tolerating mediocrity in your own life. Self-respect grows from knowing that you take action, even when conditions are unfavorable, even when no one is watching, and even when success is not guaranteed. This internal integrity produces confidence that cannot be shaken by external circumstance. Doing hard things also enhances problem-solving skills. Challenges present complexity, ambiguity, and resistance. By facing them daily, you train creativity, flexibility, and resourcefulness. You learn to analyze obstacles, consider options, and implement solutions effectively. Each success builds capability. Each failure provides insight. Over time, the ability to solve complex problems becomes a natural strength. Daily effort teaches humility. Hard tasks remind you that growth requires practice, patience, and learning. You recognize that skill and strength are not instantaneous. This humility keeps the mind open to feedback, reflection, and improvement. People who embrace daily challenges develop maturity because they understand the effort required for genuine achievement. Doing hard things builds emotional regulation. Challenges provoke frustration, anxiety, and self-doubt. Confronting these emotions without giving in strengthens control. You learn to manage impulses, respond thoughtfully, and maintain composure. Emotional stability becomes a foundation for decision-making, leadership, and meaningful interaction. Those who act under control inspire trust and respect. Another aspect of inner strength is courage. Hard tasks often involve uncertainty, exposure, and the possibility of failure. Choosing action
despite these risks, strengthens bravery. Each step outside your comfort zone adds to the capacity to handle future challenges. Courage grows not in a single moment of heroism, but in the accumulation of everyday decisions to confront difficulty. Doing hard things cultivates discipline. Discipline is the ability to act consistently in alignment with goals, even when desire, mood, or circumstance pulls you in another direction. Daily commitment to challenging work trains this discipline. Over time, it becomes automatic. You no longer wait for motivation. Action becomes a habit. Inner strength is inseparable from this disciplined persistence. Effort also develops patience. Hard tasks often require time, repetition, and slow progress. By embracing difficulty, you learn to value the process over immediate gratification. You become comfortable with delayed results, understanding that mastery is built incrementally. Patience reduces frustration, strengthens focus, and supports long-term achievement. Doing hard things daily reinforces self-efficacy. Each accomplishment, no matter how small, proves your capacity to act. The mind internalizes success, creating confidence in future challenges. This belief fuels further action, creating a positive cycle of effort, achievement, and self-assurance. Daily challenges strengthen adaptability. Life rarely goes according to plan. By embracing difficulty regularly, you become skilled at adjusting strategies, coping with change, and staying effective under varying conditions. Adaptability becomes instinctive, allowing you to navigate complexity without panic or indecision. Inner strength is also enhanced by reflection. After effort, reviewing performance, decisions, and outcomes allows lessons to be extracted. Reflection reinforces learning, prevents repetition of mistakes, and highlights effective strategies. Those who act without reflection miss the opportunity to convert effort into lasting growth. Doing hard things daily develops focus on priority. It trains discernment in what is essential versus what is trivial. Energy is no longer wasted on distractions, fleeting desires, or superficial concerns. The mind becomes selective and intentional, concentrating effort where it produces the greatest impact. Daily challenges also expand confidence in others. When people see consistent effort, reliability, and endurance, respect and trust grow. Your capacity to handle difficulty demonstrates competence and stability. Influence increases naturally because strength is visible and credible. Persistence, resilience, discipline, patience, focus, confidence, courage, and adaptability are all cultivated through repeated engagement with difficult tasks. Each day you practice, these qualities grow incrementally. Over months and years, the accumulation of small, deliberate challenges produces profound inner strength that shapes every decision, relationship, and opportunity in life. Finally, doing hard things daily transforms identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who avoids struggle. You see yourself as capable, reliable, and strong. This self-perception reinforces behavior, which produces further results. Strength becomes not only an ability, but a defining characteristic. Life becomes navigable with clarity and confidence, because you have proven to yourself that you can face difficulty consistently and overcome it. True greatness is not an event. It is a process of deliberate engagement with challenges every single day. Every hard choice strengthens mind, body, and spirit. Every act of effort builds endurance and resilience. Every decision to confront discomfort accumulates into a character capable of handling more, achieving more, and living with purpose. Daily commitment to hard work is the foundation upon which inner strength is built. The practice of doing hard things consistently allows life to become predictable in a way that supports growth. You anticipate challenges, prepare responses, and meet resistance with control rather than panic. This predictability fosters confidence, stability, and clarity in decision-making. Hard daily effort is a training ground that readies you for every circumstance life presents. Every action taken under difficulty reinforces the understanding that effort is not optional for meaningful achievement. Success is not given to those who wait for easy circumstances or favorable conditions. It is earned by those willing to face hardship, push past resistance, and commit to consistent action, regardless of temporary discomfort. Each day you choose effort, you build a reserve of strength that compounds over time, making challenges less intimidating and opportunities more attainable. This approach transforms perception of struggle. What once seemed impossible becomes manageable. What once seemed daunting becomes routine. The mind, body, and emotions adapt to sustained effort. You develop a personal standard where challenge is no longer a threat, but a sign of opportunity. Inner strength is cultivated by the deliberate choice to do hard things daily, building character, resilience, and confidence that becomes unshakable. Doing hard things every day is not about occasional heroic. It is about consistent practice, measured effort, and deliberate choices that push boundaries gradually. The accumulation of small disciplined actions creates momentum. That momentum becomes visible in every area of life, in decisions, relationships, habits, work, and personal achievement. It is how ordinary people become extraordinary over time. Hard work also teaches gratitude. The effort you invest gives perspective on the value of achievement. It allows you to appreciate results earned through dedication rather than luck. That perspective nurtures humility and reinforces continued engagement with challenges. It strengthens character by anchoring success in effort and integrity rather than entitlement. Engaging in difficult work daily also fosters self-reliance. You learn that you can depend on your own decisions, effort, and persistence. You stop waiting for external conditions, people, or motivation to drive progress. Inner strength is built on the understanding that your actions determine outcomes, and your ability to endure difficulty governs your results. Ultimately, doing hard things daily transforms your life. You become disciplined, resilient, focused, courageous, patient, and adaptable. You build confidence, competence, and the capacity to handle whatever challenges arise. You develop self-respect and trust in your own abilities. Daily effort under difficulty is the path to inner strength, and inner strength is the foundation of greatness. It is through consistent, deliberate, and challenging action that a life of impact, achievement, and purpose is built.
Chapter 3. Act without confidence and let courage grow later. Courage does not always arrive fully formed. Most people wait for confidence before they act, believing they must feel ready, prepared, or fearless before taking a step forward. That thinking delays growth indefinitely. Confidence is not the prerequisite for action. Action is the path to confidence. Greatness requires stepping forward even when doubt is present, even when fear is whispering, and even when uncertainty dominates the mind. The human experience is built on doing things before feeling ready, learning through movement rather than waiting for certainty. Courage grows through the repetition of bold acts, not from waiting for emotion to align perfectly with desire. Taking action without confidence is uncomfortable. Every instinct in the body and mind resists. The heart races, palms sweat, and doubts amplify. These signals are not warnings to stop, they are indicators that growth is happening. Each step taken despite these signals strengthens resolve. The nervous system adapts to tension, and over time the mind begins to associate risk and discomfort with growth instead of failure. Acting first, feeling confident later, is a consistent principle among all those who achieve meaningful results in life. Many people misinterpret hesitation as wisdom. They believe pausing until they feel capable will protect them from mistakes. What they fail to see is that hesitation often becomes avoidance. Opportunities pass silently, potential fades, action, even when shaky or unsure, produces clarity. Mistakes made in motion teach far more than inaction ever could. Each imperfect action provides feedback, insight, and skill development. These lessons form the foundation of confidence that is grounded in experience rather than fantasy. The act of moving forward without confidence also rewires belief systems. Belief is built from repeated evidence, not imagination. Confidence does not emerge from thought alone. It grows from evidence gathered through action. When you take a step into discomfort, complete a task you feared, or speak despite uncertainty, the mind collects proof of capability. Each success, no matter how small, reinforces the belief that you can handle challenge. Over time, these small victories accumulate into unwavering self-assurance. Fear is an inevitable companion in the process. It is not a sign to stop, but a signal that you are stretching limits. Fear teaches you about areas of avoidance, gaps in preparation, and limits of perception. Confronting fear through action shifts its power. When you choose to move forward, fear becomes less of a barrier and more of a guide, showing where courage must grow. Acting without confidence trains the nervous system to tolerate stress and uncertainty, transforming fear into fuel rather than a cage. Acting without confidence also develops resilience. Early attempts may fail, and setbacks are likely. Experiencing difficulty firsthand teaches problem-solving, adaptation, and persistence. Confidence alone cannot provide these lessons because it does not force engagement with challenge. Courage grows naturally from facing obstacles and learning that temporary discomfort does not equate to permanent defeat. Each trial faced without certainty strengthens emotional endurance and mental toughness. Starting without confidence requires humility. It demands acknowledgement that you do not have all the answers and that failure is a possibility. Humility allows you to absorb lessons, adjust strategies, and maintain composure under pressure. Arrogance or pretense of competence often hides hesitation, but blocks growth. Those who embrace uncertainty openly, act despite doubt, and remain teachable, cultivate courage far faster than those who wait for the illusion of readiness. Immediate action without confidence also accelerates learning. There is no substitute for first-hand experience. Knowledge gained from observation, instruction, or theory is limited. True understanding comes from doing, failing, reflecting, and trying again. Confidence built in this way is durable because it is rooted in repeated engagement with real-world challenges. Courage becomes practical and grounded, ready to meet situations beyond imagination. Every small act without confidence contributes to a larger sense of self-efficacy. Completing a task you feared, holding a conversation you doubted you could manage, or making a decision under uncertainty reinforces capability. The brain internalizes evidence of performance, gradually replacing hesitation with trust in personal competence. Each successive experience makes the next act easier, even when the stakes increase. Confidence is no longer imagined, it is proven. This process also trains adaptability. Acting without full confidence forces improvisation, rapid learning, and situational awareness. The mind becomes flexible. Decisions are made under uncertainty, with increased efficiency. Skills develop under pressure, and problem-solving becomes instinctive. Courage, once fledgling, solidifies because repeated exposure to challenge builds mental and emotional agility. Action without confidence nurtures discipline. Each step forward, taken despite discomfort, strengthens commitment to goals rather than reliance on mood or feeling. Discipline forms when you consistently choose effort over hesitation, practice over doubt, and engagement over avoidance. Courage is cultivated within this structure of repeated action. The more regularly you act despite fear, the more natural bravery becomes, not dependent on fleeting emotion, but on established habit. Acting without confidence also fosters authenticity. By moving forward without pretending mastery or certainty, you reveal genuine willingness to learn, grow, and improve. Others notice this transparency. Authenticity builds trust, attracts support, and reinforces accountability. Courage grows within the environment of honest action because it is validated by both experience and response, rather than expectation or appearance. Engaging in action before confidence strengthens patience. Growth rarely happens instantly. The results of brave choices often appear slowly. Acting without waiting for confidence teaches you to tolerate ambiguity, uncertainty, and delayed outcomes. Patience becomes a skill intertwined with courage. You learn to persist, understanding that visible proof of capability emerges over time, rather than immediately. Taking bold steps despite doubt also develops problem-solving skills under pressure. Acting before confidence forces rapid assessment of obstacles, prioritization of options, and implementation of solutions with incomplete information. These experiences cultivate strategic thinking and decisive action. Courage is built because repeated engagement with risk and uncertainty strengthens the mind's ability to navigate complexity confidently. Each courageous act, even small, reinforces emotional regulation. Facing discomfort triggers stress, anxiety, or self-doubt. Moving forward trains the mind to manage these responses. Over time, emotional stability emerges. You respond thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. Confidence grows in parallel because the brain experiences repeated evidence of controlled, effective action under pressure. Acting without confidence develops leadership qualities. Courage inspires observation. People notice those who move despite uncertainty. They respect those who engage actively rather than wait for perfect conditions. Influence grows naturally when others see repeated action, commitment, and resilience. Leadership emerges from consistent demonstration of initiative, reliability, and willingness to face difficulty without hesitation. Repeated action without confidence also strengthens self-reliance. By taking responsibility for navigating uncertainty, you build independence. You discover that waiting for external validation or preparation is unnecessary. Your own capacity becomes the anchor for progress. Courage grows because it is forged in real experience rather than abstract expectation. Each step taken without certainty reinforces trust in your own judgment and capability. Acting without confidence encourages continuous reflection. Each attempt, success or failure, provides information about abilities, gaps, and strategies for improvement. Reflection turns experience into knowledge, reinforcing self-awareness and sharpening judgment. Courage expands because it is based on lessons learned in real-world application, creating actionable understanding rather than theoretical assurance. Daily engagement with tasks outside comfort strengthens mental toughness. The mind learns to tolerate uncertainty, discomfort, and occasional failure. Courage is not simply a trait, it is a skill refined through repeated exposure to risk and challenge. Each conscious step in the face of doubt enhances capacity, reinforces determination, and solidifies self-belief. Action before confidence also improves decision-making under pressure. When you act without guaranteed certainty, you learn to evaluate options quickly, make informed judgments, and accept consequences. This builds decisiveness and clarity, critical components of courage. Confidence then emerges naturally, because repeated success reinforces trust in judgment and ability to act effectively in uncertain circumstances. Over time, acting without confidence produces consistent momentum.
Each step forward, no matter how hesitant, contributes to skill, understanding, and resilience. Courage compounds in parallel with experience. Eventually, confidence catches up because the accumulation of proof surpasses initial doubt. The process creates a cycle where action reinforces growth, and growth reinforces future action. Taking action without confidence strengthens commitment to personal goals. When choices are made based on vision, rather than temporary feeling, persistence increases. Courage is reinforced because progress continues despite emotional fluctuation. Each act affirms capability, validates effort, and reinforces alignment between intent and outcome. Facing repeated challenges without initial confidence fosters humility. You accept imperfection and recognize that mastery requires practice, failure, and reflection. Humility keeps the mind open to learning and allows courage to develop authentically rather than artificially. Strength is grounded in experience rather than pretension. Acting without confidence also nurtures risk tolerance. Repeated exposure to uncertainty trains judgment, resilience, and composure. The mind becomes accustomed to discomfort without panic. The body learns that stress is manageable. Courage grows because repeated exposure reduces fear's influence and reinforces competence. Ultimately, courage is a byproduct of movement. Confidence is not a prerequisite, but a result. Each choice to act in spite of doubt, each step into discomfort, each decision to engage rather than wait, strengthens skill, self-belief, and resilience. Inner strength is cultivated, fear is diminished, and capacity for achievement expands. Life rewards those who begin before they feel ready. Action produces competence. Competence produces confidence. Competence produces opportunity. Courage is forged in that continuous cycle. By embracing action without reliance on confidence, you train mental, emotional, and practical faculties simultaneously. You develop perseverance, focus, problem-solving, and adaptability. You cultivate self-reliance, emotional control, and strategic thinking. Courage grows organically from repeated exposure to uncertainty and challenge, forming a foundation for sustained personal and professional success. Taking action without full confidence also encourages experimenting and creativity. When outcomes are uncertain, the mind explores solutions actively, tests ideas, and evaluates consequences. This builds innovation, adaptability, and confidence in one's judgment. Courage grows because repeated attempts yield mastery over process and skill, not just results. Every step forward under doubt transforms identity. You begin to see yourself as capable, resilient, and reliable. Fear loses authority over choice. Confidence becomes a natural response to evidence of capability. Courage shifts from being an occasional act into a consistent characteristic that defines behavior, choices, and responses to challenge. Acting without confidence is a practice in personal sovereignty. It reinforces the understanding that life's outcomes are determined more by action than by feeling ready. Each deliberate step forward strengthens agency. Courage grows because repeated experience proves the mind and body capable of meeting demands that once seemed intimidating. Over time, action becomes the foundation, and confidence becomes the natural consequence.
Chapter 4. Break comfort habits that keep your life small. Most people live in routines that feel safe, predictable, and comfortable. These routines create the illusion of security, but they often limit growth, opportunity, and achievement. Life expands only when comfort is challenged. Every habit that prioritizes ease over effort creates invisible barriers. They slow progress, reduce potential, and prevent meaningful change. To break free, you must identify the patterns that keep life small and use actions that stretch boundaries. Growth begins when familiarity ends. Doing so is uncomfortable, unsettling, and requires determination, but it is the pathway to creating a life that is larger, richer, and more impactful. Comfort is seductive. It provides immediate gratification and the appearance of stability. People cling to habits that require minimal effort, avoid risk, and minimize discomfort. These behaviors are not inherently wrong, but when they dominate life, they stunt development. The mind grows used to ease. The body grows accustomed to minimal challenge, and ambition shrinks. Breaking comfort habits forces the mind and body into new territory. Every step beyond habitual ease teaches resilience, adaptability, and courage. Identifying comfort habits requires honesty. Many routines are invisible until you observe them critically. Consider daily choices, how time is spent, how energy is allocated, and how decisions are influenced by fear of challenge or judgment. Notice patterns that protect convenience over growth. These could include procrastination, avoidance of difficult conversations, over-reliance on entertainment, or repeated excuses for inactivity. Recognizing these habits is the first step toward dismantling them. Awareness precedes transformation. Breaking habits requires intentional action. The first moments of change are often the most difficult because the brain resists deviation from familiar patterns. Discomfort is natural, signaling the shift from old behavior to new. Persistence through these moments strengthens mental toughness. Each small act of resistance to comfort reinforces self-control and signals to the mind that you are capable of change. Incremental disruption of habitual ease compounds over time into profound personal growth. Many comfort habits operate unconsciously. They shape behavior without deliberate choice. To disrupt them, conscious intervention is necessary. This may mean setting boundaries on distractions, establishing new routines that demand focus, or deliberately exposing oneself to challenge. Action must be intentional, structured, and consistent. Small, repeated deviations from habitual comfort retrain the mind, creating new neural pathways aligned with growth and capability. Resistance to breaking comfort habits is natural. Fear of uncertainty, fear of failure, and fear of discomfort all activate avoidance. The human mind seeks predictability and control. Confronting habits that provide ease triggers emotional tension. The body reacts with stress, doubt, and hesitation. Each moment of choice to act despite these reactions strengthens courage. Growth is never instantaneous. Repetition, perseverance, and patience are required to reinforce new patterns. Breaking comfort habits improves decision-making. People who remain in familiar routines often make choices based on convenience rather than strategy. By stepping outside ease, the mind learns to evaluate options critically, prioritize long-term outcomes over immediate pleasure, and engage with complexity. The ability to make deliberate, thoughtful decisions increases because action is no longer dictated by habit, impulse, or fear. Discomfort expands perspective. Comfort keeps vision narrow. Habits that prioritize ease constrain awareness and limit possibilities. Choosing actions that challenge routine exposes new ideas, opportunities, and experience. Each act of deviation teaches adaptability, sharpens problem-solving skills, and enhances understanding of personal capability. Life grows larger when actions are purposeful rather than habitual. Breaking comfort habits develops resilience. Life inevitably presents challenges that demand effort, courage, and adaptation. People who have conditioned themselves to prioritize ease struggle under pressure. Those who practice stepping beyond comfort daily experience difficulty with more composure, clarity, and strategic thinking. Resilience emerges from repeated exposure to discomfort and challenge, teaching the mind and body that endurance produces results. Action against habitual comfort also strengthens self-reliance. By choosing effort over ease, individuals develop trust in their ability to respond effectively in diverse situations. Reliance on external conditions, people or luck diminishes. Inner confidence grows because repeated action under difficulty demonstrates competence, capability, and resourcefulness. Courage follows naturally from demonstrated self-reliance. Breaking comfort habits refines focus. Ease often invites distraction, indulgence, and scattered attention. Intentional challenge requires concentration, prioritization, and energy management. Practicing focus in moments of discomfort strengthens cognitive control and decision-making. Tasks that once seemed overwhelming become manageable because mental clarity improves through deliberate effort. The mind learns to prioritize progress over avoidance. Comfort habits also limit creativity. Familiarity encourages predictable thinking and repeated solutions. By engaging in unfamiliar, challenging, or difficult tasks, the mind is stimulated to explore alternatives, innovate, and generate ideas. Breaking the patterns of ease unlocks mental flexibility. Creativity grows because the mind adapts to novel circumstances and learns to solve problems under conditions of discomfort. Stepping out of comfort teaches emotional regulation. Many habits of ease reduce exposure to emotional stress, conflict, or pressure. When discomfort is deliberately introduced, emotional awareness and control improve. The mind learns to respond thoughtfully instead of reactive. Gradually, emotional stability becomes a habit, allowing for better handling of stress, criticism, and uncertainty. Breaking comfort habits also strengthens discipline. Consistently choosing effort over ease trains the mind to act according to principle rather than feeling. Discipline is developed when action occurs despite resistance, fatigue, or hesitation. Courage, focus, and resilience emerge naturally as the mind associates challenge with growth rather than avoidance. Repetition solidifies this association into enduring personal strength. Challenging comfort requires evaluating priorities. Many routines reflect convenience rather than meaningful intention. By questioning how time, energy, and attention are allocated, you identify areas of life limited by habit. Adjustments made deliberately redirect effort toward growth, learning, and contribution. Intentional choices replace automatic behaviors, producing measurable improvement in capability, influence, and satisfaction. Breaking comfort habits fosters accountability. Choosing action over ease involves taking responsibility for outcomes rather than deflecting blame. Each act reinforces the understanding that personal growth depends on personal initiative. Mistakes are reframed as lessons, not as reasons to retreat. Repeated practice strengthens integrity, self-trust, and confidence. Daily challenge reduces dependence on motivation. Motivation is inconsistent, fleeting, and unreliable. Comfort habits often exploit this by providing excuses to avoid effort. Deliberate action under discomfort builds the habit of persistence independent of feeling. Strength emerges because progress is guided by principle and discipline, rather than fluctuating desire. Each day of effort compounds, reinforcing capability and courage. Breaking comfort habits nurtures courage. Repeated engagement with discomfort teaches the mind to tolerate uncertainty, risk, and challenge. Fear diminishes in power because exposure produces mastery. Courage is strengthened, not through sudden bursts of bravery, but through consistent practice of difficult choices. The accumulation of these experiences forms a resilient, confident mindset. Effort against comfort enhances problem-solving. Difficult situations encountered outside familiar routines require assessment, planning, and execution. Each successful navigation reinforces competence. Each misstep teaches adjustment. Over time, the capacity to resolve challenges effectively and strategically becomes instinctive. Strength, creativity, and adaptability are cultivated simultaneously through these experiences.
Breaking comfort habits grows patience. Progress is rarely immediate. Stepping into unfamiliar or difficult situations often produces slow results, mistakes and frustration. Tolerance of delay, repetition, and challenge strengthens perseverance. Patience emerges as a byproduct of repeated engagement with actions that test endurance and commitment. Deliberately challenging comfort also increases awareness. People become more attuned to choices, behaviors, and consequences. The mind notices patterns previously invisible. Attention is refined because habitual distraction is interrupted. This heightened self-awareness informs better decisions, enhances strategic thinking, and improves interactions with others. Breaking comfort habits fosters gratitude. By experiencing effort and challenge, individuals gain perspective on achievements and resources previously taken for granted. Appreciation deepens for both personal capability and external opportunities. Gratitude reinforces positive behavior, encouraging continued growth, learning, and engagement. Inner strength develops through repeated resistance to ease. Mental, emotional, and physical capacities are enhanced by each deliberate act of effort. Confidence and courage grow naturally because repeated success in challenging circumstances reinforces capability. The mind becomes trained to anticipate effort as a necessary component of meaningful outcomes. Stepping outside comfort habits amplifies personal influence. People observe consistency, discipline, and resilience in action. Respect and trust increase because effort is visible and reliable. Leadership develops because courage and persistence are tangible. Influence is a byproduct of visible strength, cultivated through repeated engagement with difficulty. Breaking comfort habits also fosters adaptability. Life is unpredictable. Familiar routines do not prepare the mind for sudden change or challenge. Regular practice in discomfort trains flexibility, quick thinking, and creative solutions. The mind learns to respond constructively rather than panic, maintaining focus on results despite circumstances. Every act against habitual comfort strengthens. The sense of self evolves from reactive to proactive. Individuals see themselves as capable, resilient, and committed. Beliefs about limitations are challenged, creating a mindset aligned with growth, opportunity, and impact is reinforced as actions accumulate into patterns of strength and initiative. Ultimately, breaking comfort habits is about reclaiming life. It is about refusing to allow convenience to dictate the scope of potential, opportunity, and fulfillment. Growth, achievement, and influence expand only when action challenges the familiar. Repeated engagement with discomfort builds skill, resilience, courage, and confidence. Life becomes richer, larger, and more meaningful because it is shaped through deliberate effort rather than passive habit. Each day of resisting comfort compounds. Every choice to act in difficulty strengthens resolve, sharpens focus, and increases capability. Over time, the accumulation of these actions produces profound transformation in mindset, character, and performance. Comfort loses its dominance, life grows expansively, opportunity multiplies, and potential is fully realized.
Chapter 5. Hold yourself accountable when no one is watching. Accountability is the bridge between intention and achievement. Most people behave responsibly when observed, praised, or supervised, but true character is revealed when no one is watching. The decisions made in solitude, the actions taken without recognition, and the effort invested without reward determine real progress. Holding yourself accountable requires honesty, integrity, and discipline. It demands that you evaluate your own choices critically, confront uncomfortable truths, and act consistently with values and goals even when external validation is absent. This is where resilience, self-respect, and personal power are cultivated. Life constantly presents moments of choice that go unnoticed. The small decisions accumulate quietly, but powerfully. Whether you complete tasks, honor commitments, or maintain discipline in your habits, each action forms the foundation of results. Accountability begins with observation of self, tracking behavior, monitoring progress, and honestly reviewing performance are essential practices. They develop self-awareness and strengthen the ability to act deliberately rather than reactively in pursuit of meaningful outcomes. Most failures in life originate from inconsistency. People make promises to themselves, set goals, and imagine progress, but without self-accountability, these intentions dissolve. Excuses fill the gaps. The mind rationalizes avoidance. Over time, small lapses compound into patterns of underperformance. Those who hold themselves accountable disrupt this cycle. They create a standard that cannot be compromised by convenience, distraction, or fleeting emotion. The measure of greatness is not recognition from others, but fidelity to one's own standards when alone. Accountability requires courage. Facing oneself honestly is uncomfortable. Mistakes, procrastination, and gaps in effort are rarely easy to acknowledge. The mind resists self-scrutiny because it threatens the illusion of competence or control. Choosing to confront reality cultivates strength. It sharpens clarity and builds trust in your own judgment. Courage grows each time you face truth without rationalization, denial, or avoidance. Discipline is inseparable from accountability. Without someone observing, the temptation to skip effort, delay action, or choose ease is powerful. Discipline ensures that behavior aligns with goals regardless of immediate reward. It transforms potential into action and intention into result. Daily practice of self-discipline builds habits that reinforce accountability. Over time, these habits create momentum that carries progress even in the absence of supervision. Self-accountability enhances decision-making. When you are responsible for your choices, every action is weighed more carefully. You consider long-term impact rather than temporary relief. Priorities are clarified, energy is allocated effectively, and distractions are resisted. Accountability trains judgments because each decision carries consequences you alone will face. This process strengthens focus and reinforces the capacity to act with intention under pressure. Integrity is at the core of accountability. It is the commitment to align actions with values consistently. People who maintain integrity when no one is watching develop trust in themselves. They experience clarity, confidence, and purpose that cannot be shaken by external opinion. Integrity fuels momentum because actions are guided by principle rather than emotion or desire for approval. Holding yourself accountable builds resilience. Life is unpredictable, and external circumstances rarely provide guidance or correction. By practicing self-monitoring, reflection, and adherence to personal standards, you develop the ability to navigate challenges independently. Mistakes are reframed as lessons, setbacks as opportunities, and pressure as a testing ground for perseverance. Resilience grows because the mind is conditioned to respond constructively without relying on external oversight. Accountability strengthens focus on results. When no one else is observing, the emphasis shifts from image to outcome. Effort becomes deliberate and aligned with meaningful goals. Attention is concentrated on what matters most, rather than distractions or superficial validation. This alignment produces measurable progress, reinforces confidence, and accelerates growth. Self-accountability requires consistent reflection. Regular evaluation of actions, habits, and choices allows course correction before problems escalate. Honest reflection identifies gaps between intention and behavior. It encourages strategic adaptation and continuous improvement. Those who practice this form of self-monitoring develop foresight, clarity, and precision in every endeavor. Emotional control is cultivated through accountability. Without observation, the temptation to respond impulsively, procrastinate, or avoid responsibility is strong. Choosing thoughtful, deliberate action in solitude trains emotional stability. The mind learns to prioritize long-term gain over temporary relief. Emotional regulation becomes a habit, reinforcing resilience, self-discipline, and trust in personal capability. Holding yourself accountable also develops self-respect. Consistently following through on commitments, completing tasks, and honoring personal standards strengthens belief in your own reliability. Confidence is not externally granted, but internally verified. Self-respect fuels motivation, consistency, and courage to pursue increasingly difficult goals. Each instance of accountability reinforces identity and capacity. Accountability encourages proactive behavior. Rather than waiting for instruction, supervision, or approval, you learn to anticipate needs, solve problems, and manage responsibilities independently. This self-initiative enhances competence and efficiency. Over time, proactive action becomes instinctive, creating a foundation for leadership and influence. Accountability reinforces time management. When the responsibility for progress lies solely on your shoulders, every moment is valued. Procrastination is reduced. Priorities are clarified, and energy is directed toward meaningful work. Managing time effectively becomes a natural outcome of holding oneself to consistent standards. Personal growth accelerates through accountability. Each decision, each action, and each completed task provides data for improvement. Patterns are identified, strength amplified, and weaknesses addressed. Progress is not dependent on praise or supervision, but on deliberate evaluation and adjustment. Growth becomes inevitable when responsibility is internalized. Accountability develops courage under solitude. Acting without observation often presents the toughest test because temptation, fear, and uncertainty are high. Choosing effort despite these conditions strengthens courage, fortifies character, and builds inner resolve. Each act of responsibility in isolation reinforces confidence in the ability to manage life independently. Self-accountability strengthens persistence. Challenges, setbacks, and fatigue naturally arise. By maintaining responsibility without external pressure, the habit of persistence is reinforced. The mind learns that progress is not contingent on comfort or recognition, but on consistent, deliberate action. Endurance becomes habitual, and goals are pursued without hesitation. Honesty with oneself is central to accountability. Avoiding rationalization, denial, or excuses allows accurate assessment of behavior. The clarity gained provides a foundation for improvement, informed decision-making, and strategic growth. Integrity and self-honesty create a feedback loop where learning, adaptation, and achievement reinforce each other. Accountability improves problem-solving. When responsibility lies solely on you, solutions are explored actively, decisions are implemented deliberately, and creativity is cultivated. Facing challenges independently strengthens competence and reinforces confidence in personal judgment. Repeated practice under these conditions produces reliable, effective problem-solving skills. Consistency is reinforced through accountability. Performing actions reliably when unobserved trains habit formation, fortifies discipline, and establishes standards for performance. People who cultivate consistency internally do not rely on external pressure to maintain effort. Predictable, deliberate action becomes the default mode, producing sustained growth and achievement. Self-accountability enhances emotional intelligence. Regular reflection, honest self-assessment, and deliberate action under solitude increase awareness of impulses, motivations, and responses.
Understanding one's own emotions improves decision-making, interpersonal relationships, and strategic thinking. Emotional intelligence becomes a byproduct of sustained self-discipline and personal responsibility. Accountability also builds independence. Life rarely provides supervision or approval in critical moments. By developing the habit of acting responsibly, without oversight, reliance on external guidance diminishes. Confidence, courage, and competence are reinforced because they are tested and proven repeatedly in solitude. Independence becomes a natural outcome of sustained accountability practice. Accountability fosters reliability. When standards are maintained internally, performance becomes predictable. Others recognize competence, trustworthiness, and professionalism. Influence grows because actions are consistently aligned with commitments, values, and goals. Leadership potential is amplified because credibility originates from self-discipline rather than imposed authority. Decision-making becomes sharper under accountability. Each choice carries weight and is evaluated critically. By practicing responsibility for outcomes, you refine judgment, anticipate consequences, and respond effectively. Repeated exposure to decision-making under self-supervision strengthens strategic thinking and clarity. Confidence grows because decisions are validated through experience rather than assumption. Accountability encourages long-term perspective. Immediate rewards are rarely present when no one is watching. By holding yourself responsible, attention shifts from short-term gratification to meaningful outcomes. Planning, prioritization, and foresight develop naturally. Progress is measured against consistent standards, producing sustainable achievement. The habit of self-accountability reduces excuses. When results depend entirely on personal effort, rationalizations lose power. Every task, interaction, or decision becomes an opportunity to reinforce standards. Avoidance, procrastination, and blame are replaced by deliberate action and responsibility. Over time, accountability strengthens integrity and reliability across all areas of life. Accountability nurtures humility. Recognizing mistakes, gaps, and areas for improvement without external observation requires openness. Humility allows adjustment, learning, and growth. Courage grows alongside this humility, forming a balanced approach to personal development. Each admission of imperfection strengthens character and builds resilience. Self-accountability also improves focus on goals. Actions are continuously evaluated against objectives. Alignment between effort and outcome is prioritized. Attention is concentrated on activities that produce meaningful results rather than on distractions or short-term pleasure. Progress accelerates when accountability drives action. Accountability cultivates self-trust. By consistently meeting internal standards, completing tasks, and honoring commitments without supervision, confidence in one's own reliability grows. Trust in personal capability becomes an internal compass, guiding decisions, behavior, and pursuit of goals. Ultimately, holding yourself accountable when no one is watching builds a foundation for greatness. It strengthens discipline, resilience, courage, focus, and integrity. Character is forged in solitude. Habits, standards, and effort, developed without observation, persist when conditions are challenging or support is absent. True achievement is rooted in internal responsibility, not external approval. Life becomes navigable with clarity, confidence, and competence because you have proven to yourself that results depend on deliberate, consistent action, regardless of recognition or reward.
Chapter 6. Stay consistent when progress feels slow and invisible. Progress is rarely immediate, visible, or dramatic. Most people expect results quickly and feel frustrated when effort does not yield instant recognition. This impatience often leads to giving up before meaningful growth occurs. True development skill acquisition, and transformation are processes built over time. They accumulate quietly, often unnoticed, until the compound effect produces significant results. Staying consistent when progress feels slow is the single most important habit for achieving greatness. It requires patience, perseverance, and trust in the process. The human mind wants to see evidence before continuing effort, but reliance on visible results undermines long-term achievement. Real growth often happens under the surface, where effort builds capacity, skill, and resilience, even when nothing appears to change externally. Consistency is a form of discipline applied over time. It is the repeated commitment to action, regardless of emotional state, energy level, or external validation. Each small action, no matter how unremarkable, contributes to an invisible accumulation that later manifests as significant progress. Those who persist quietly through monotony and delayed results build momentum that cannot be easily interrupted. The key is to focus on the process, the behaviors, and the habits, rather than immediate outcomes. Outcome alone is unreliable as a measure of effort. Maintaining effort when results are invisible tests belief and self-trust. Doubt naturally emerges, questioning the value of time and energy invested. People feel like giving up because the mind interprets lack of visible feedback as failure. Patience, however, bridges the gap between effort and reward. Belief in the process, reinforced by repeated action, cultivates resilience. Confidence grows quietly as competence develops, even when it is not immediately observable. Those who endure the invisible phases understand that slow, consistent effort is far more powerful than sporadic bursts of activity based on motivation alone. Consistency produces compounding effect. Actions that may seem inconsequential in isolation contribute to larger results over time. Repetition ingrains skill, strengthens habits, and solidifies behavior. Skills grow deeper, efficiency improves, and mastery begins to take shape. The invisible work done daily forms a foundation upon which achievement is built. Patience is required because the results appear disproportionate to the initial effort. The mind often underestimates the value of persistence during early stages. Effort without visible recognition, challenges, emotional control, frustration, disappointment, and self-doubt are natural responses. Managing these emotions is critical. Staying consistent requires detachment from immediate gratification and focus on long-term objectives. Emotional resilience develops because repeated action reinforces trust in personal capability rather than external validation. Over time, the mind learns that results are inevitable when effort is persistent, methodical, and disciplined. Consistency also enhances adaptability. When progress is slow, repeated action allows observation, experimentation, and adjustment. Each day of effort provides data to refine technique, strategy, and approach. Incremental improvement becomes the path forward. The ability to adapt while remaining consistent strengthens competence and confidence. Skill develops quietly, creating internal readiness for opportunities that eventually appear externally. Effort under invisibility nurtures patience. The habit of continuing despite apparent stagnation teaches endurance, tolerance for discomfort, and faith in process. Patience becomes intertwined with action, creating a mental framework that supports sustained progress. Each moment of persistence reinforces the understanding that immediate reward is not the measure of value. Long-term success depends on continuing even when the external evidence seems absent. Consistency is reinforced by goal alignment. When each action is connected to a meaningful objective, effort becomes purposeful. The mind focuses on relevance rather than visibility. Each step, no matter how small, contributes to the bigger picture. Purpose guides action during invisible phases, reducing the risk of distraction or demotivation. The clarity of objective strengthens commitment and endurance. Routine is a powerful ally in maintaining consistent repetition in daily practice, creates stability, reduces decision fatigue, and embeds habits into behavior. Over time, these routines generate automatic responses aligned with goals. Persistence becomes natural rather than forced. Consistency is less about motivation and more about structure. Momentum develops because the mind and body are conditioned to act even when progress is not immediately apparent. Consistency under invisibility strengthens self-reliance. When results are not visible, external feedback is minimal. Reliance shifts from validation to personal judgment, discipline, and integrity. The ability to trust oneself, remain committed, and act deliberately is cultivated. This inner strength is essential for leadership, mastery, and sustained achievement. Confidence develops as repeated effort confirms capability independently of external recognition. Persistence builds problem-solving capacity. Slow progress allows careful observation of what works and what doesn't. Each repetition provides opportunities to refine technique, adjust strategies, and test approaches. Challenges are encountered incrementally, teaching navigation under conditions of uncertainty. By staying consistent, problem-solving becomes instinctive, and the ability to overcome obstacles strengthens gradually. Effort in invisibility nurtures humility. Recognizing that growth takes time reduces entitlement, and impatient individuals develop the capacity to respect processes, appreciate small improvements, and accept that mastery is incremental. Humility supports continuous learning and openness to adjustment, which are essential for long-term success. The mind gradually internalizes the understanding that true progress cannot be rushed. Consistency strengthens focus. When results are slow, attention on action rather than reward ensures energy is directed toward productive behavior. The mind learns to prioritize process over external confirmation. Focused effort becomes habitual because attention is repeatedly aligned with meaningful work. The ability to concentrate under delayed feedback conditions enhances efficiency and effectiveness. Effort under invisibility enhances resilience. When progress seems stagnant, setbacks, discouragement, and fatigue test determination. Consistency reinforces the habit of continuing despite discomfort. Over time, resilience becomes automatic. The mind, body, and emotions adapt to operate under sustained effort, even without visible reward. The capacity to endure difficulty without deviation is a hallmark of greatness. Small, consistent actions build mastery. Skill develops slowly through repetition, reflection, and adjustment. Each repetition reinforces learning and strengthens capability. Visible results may lag, but internal competence accumulates steadily. Mastery is rarely recognized immediately, yet its foundation is formed quietly through persistence and repetition. The invisible work produces long-term advantage, depth, and strength. Consistency develops character. The repeated choice to act despite lack of visible success teaches responsibility, patience, and determination. Integrity grows because actions align with principles rather than external reward. The person who continues quietly, without fanfare, builds habits of reliability, persistence, and purpose. These qualities define long-term success more than initial recognition or fleeting motivation. Staying consistent builds momentum. Each completed action, no matter how small, adds to cumulative force. Over time, what once seemed insignificant compounds into meaningful outcomes. The invisible accumulation of effort creates breakthroughs that appear sudden to outsiders, but in reality are the result of sustained, deliberate action. Momentum reinforces persistence and confidence, producing a self-sustaining cycle of growth. Consistency also strengthens adaptability to setbacks. Slow progress allows observation of challenges and adjustment of strategy without panic.
The mind becomes accustomed to managing obstacles incrementally. Over time, resilience and flexibility improve because repeated action under variable conditions trains resourcefulness and composure. Confidence grows as competence becomes observable through repeated effort. Patience is developed through invisible progress. When outcomes are delayed, tolerance for uncertainty increases. The mind learns that delayed recognition does not indicate failure. Emotional equilibrium is strengthened, reducing anxiety and impulsivity. Patience combined with consistent action produces durable results, teaching the individual that success emerges from steady accumulation of effort rather than immediate validation. Staying consistent also encourages reflective, observing progress, analyzing methods, and adjusting strategies enhance learning. Each iteration becomes more effective because reflection integrates past experience into present action. Knowledge grows alongside skill, and confidence gradually emerges from tangible improvement rather than abstract hope. Consistency under invisibility teaches gratitude. Small repeated victories, though unobserved, highlight the value of effort and persistence. Recognizing incremental growth fosters appreciation for the process, strengthening motivation and satisfaction. Gratitude reinforces continued effort, ensuring that momentum persists even when external reward is delayed. Effort under delayed progress strengthens independence. The ability to continue action without external reinforcement or supervision cultivates self-trust. Decisions are guided by principle and objective rather than encouragement or recognition. Independence becomes a hallmark of reliable, capable individual. Confidence grows internally because success is a product of sustained action rather than circumstance. Consistency develops courage over time. Repeated exposure to invisible effort, frustration, and delayed results trains the mind to act despite uncertainty. Fear of stagnation, failure, or inefficacy diminishes as competence grows incrementally. Courage is strengthened because action becomes habitual, reinforcing trust in the ability to handle challenge. Effort in invisibility reinforces accountability. Each day of deliberate work tests commitment and integrity. The person accountable to themselves maintains standards, completes tasks, and honors promises without reliance on observation. This practice reinforces reliability, strengthens identity, and produces long-term achievement. Every repeated, consistent action amplifies discipline. The mind internalizes routine, focus, and adherence to principle. External conditions become less influential because habit drives behavior. Discipline ensures persistence during adversity, slow progress, or invisibility, producing cumulative advantage over time. Consistency improves strategic thinking. Gradual accumulation of experience allows better judgment, planning, and anticipation of challenges. Each day of effort, reflection, and adjustment informs future decisions. The mind learns to evaluate options systematically rather than reactively, producing smarter, more effective outcomes. Ultimately, staying consistent when progress feels slow and invisible cultivates mastery, resilience, focus, patience, and character. Small repeated actions compound into significant achievement. Growth is built silently, skill develops incrementally, and internal competence accumulates until results manifest visibly. Those who maintain effort in the absence of recognition develop an unshakable foundation for great patience, persistence, and trust in process, ensure that even the smallest daily actions produce extraordinary long-term impact.
Chapter 7. Choose long-term respect over short-term pleasure. Choosing long-term respect over short-term pleasure is one of the most important decisions a person can make in life. Too many people trade their integrity, reputation, and potential for immediate gratification. The temporary comfort, entertainment, or avoidance of effort might feel rewarding in the moment, but it slowly erodes character and limits opportunity. Greatness is not achieved through fleeting satisfaction, but through deliberate, consistent choices that build trust, credibility, and respect over time. Every action that aligns with long-term principles strengthens self-respect and earns the confidence of others. Choosing wisely is not easy, because the human mind is wired to seek ease, immediate reward, and avoidance of discomfort. Discipline is the bridge that connects daily decisions with lasting impact. Short-term pleasure is seductive. It promises relief from stress, boredom, or uncertainty, and it delivers instant, recognizable satisfaction. People often prioritize it because the brain responds to immediate reward more strongly than to delayed outcomes. This creates a habit of impulsive decision-making, which undermines personal growth and reputation. Life, however, is not a series of moments to be enjoyed in isolation, but a continuum where choices accumulate into a story of character, influence, and accomplishment. Every action matters, and choosing momentary indulgence over principle can have cascading effects on relationships, career, health, and self-esteem. Respect is earned over time through consistent demonstration of integrity, reliability, and moral clarity. Unlike pleasure, respect does not fade with habit. It becomes a currency of influence, credibility, and trust. People who act in ways that prioritize long-term respect are recognized as dependable and honorable. Others are drawn to them because their actions demonstrate alignment with values rather than convenience. Respect builds reputation, opens doors to opportunity, and ensures that relationships and partnerships are strong, durable, and mutually reinforcing. Choosing respect over pleasure is not about abstaining from enjoyment, but about selecting actions that honor purpose and principle above temporary sensation. Impulse control is a skill critical to this choice. Every day presents moments where the temptation of immediate gratification conflicts with long-term objectives. Skipping effort for comfort, saying something easy rather than truthful, indulging in short-term escape rather than facing challenges, all are decisions where long-term respect is sacrificed for fleeting relief. Developing the habit of pausing, evaluating consequences, and acting according to principle strengthens self-discipline. Each decision to prioritize respect reinforces character, making future choices easier and more aligned with vision and values. Long-term respect requires foresight. Decisions should be evaluated not only by their immediate impact, but by how they shape reputation, relationships, and opportunities over months and years. The small acts of integrity, honesty, and accountability compound over time into a consistent demonstration of character. Conversely, repeated concessions to short-term pleasure gradually undermine credibility, reduce trust, and weaken influence. Understanding the value of delayed gratification helps in making choices that produce lasting benefit instead of ephemeral satisfaction. Integrity is the foundation of respect. Choosing short-term pleasure often involves compromising values, bending truth, or avoiding responsibility. These choices may offer immediate relief, but reduce trustworthiness and self-esteem. When actions are aligned with principles, even in moments of difficulty or temptation, integrity strengthens. Others notice consistency, reliability, and moral clarity, which produces admiration and influence. Integrity acts as a compass guiding behavior, ensuring that every choice contributes to lasting respect rather than momentary indulgence. Accountability plays a central role. People who pursue long-term respect hold themselves responsible for actions, decisions, and outcomes, regardless of external observation or reward. They are willing to do what is right even when inconvenient or uncomfortable. This self-enforced accountability reinforces reputation and internal confidence. It ensures that every decision, however minor, contributes to a coherent, principled life rather than a series of short-term satisfactions that undermine stability, credibility, and potential. Choosing long-term respect over short-term pleasure develops resilience. Life is full of challenges that test patience, perseverance, and integrity. When decisions prioritize enduring respect, individuals learn to tolerate discomfort, postpone gratification, and act consistently under pressure. Resilience emerges because personal standards are maintained despite temptation or hardship. The ability to persist and act with principle, even in adversity, strengthens character, influence, and long-term success. Relationships are profoundly affected by this choice. People instinctively recognize those who consistently prioritize integrity and respect over convenience or indulgence. Trust develops because actions are predictable and reliable. Conversely, when choices favor immediate pleasure or self-interest, trust erodes, connections weaken, and influence diminishes. Long-term respect is relational. It communicates value, reliability, and credibility to others, fostering deeper, more authentic partnerships and collaboration. Self-respect grows alongside external respect. Every decision to act in alignment with principles, even when tempting alternatives offer pleasure, reinforces self-esteem. Confidence emerges from knowing that actions are consistent with values, vision, and ethical standards. This internal strength reduces dependency on external validation and builds independence, courage, and clarity of purpose. Self-respect is a direct product of repeatedly choosing long-term integrity over short-term indulgence. Patience is cultivated through this practice. Resisting the immediate reward of pleasure often requires delaying gratification, tolerating discomfort, and accepting incremental progress. Patience strengthens when repeated choices demonstrate that enduring effort, principled action, and long-term vision produce greater benefit than immediate satisfaction. The mind learns to value future outcomes over fleeting comfort, creating a mindset conducive to persistence and strategic growth. Decision-making improves when long-term respect is prioritized. The lens through which choices are evaluated shifts from momentary benefit to enduring consequence. Impulse diminishes, critical thinking increases, and actions become more strategic. The ability to anticipate effects, consider moral implications, and align behavior with core principles strengthens. Consistently exercising this perspective enhances judgment, wisdom, and the ability to navigate complex personal and professional environments. Discipline is reinforced through repeated adherence to long-term principles. Avoiding indulgence in favor of respectful action creates mental habits that support future success. Each choice that resists temptation builds strength, making subsequent challenges easier to navigate. Discipline becomes self-reinforcing because repeated practice confirms competence, reliability, and alignment with vision. Over time, restraint transforms from a conscious effort into a natural behavior pattern. Long-term respect enhances credibility. When actions are consistent, transparent, and principled, others recognize reliability and competence. Reputation becomes a reflection of deliberate, ethical behavior rather than luck, charisma, or convenience. Influence increases because people can trust decisions, promises, and commitment. Credibility compounds over time, producing opportunities and partnerships that are inaccessible to those who prioritize temporary pleasure over enduring value.
Emotional control is developed by resisting short-term indulgence. Temptations often trigger immediate emotional satisfaction, yet acting without consideration erodes long-term outcomes. Managing impulses, evaluating consequences, and responding thoughtfully rather than reactively strengthens emotional intelligence. Emotional maturity supports consistent action, protects reputation, and reinforces respect. Over time, the ability to act calmly under pressure becomes an essential tool in achieving lasting impact. Focus is sharpened when choices align with long-term respect. The mind concentrates on objectives, values, and meaningful outcomes rather than distractions or transient rewards. Energy is directed toward progress, learning, and contribution rather than ephemeral satisfaction. Focus develops naturally as actions consistently reinforce principle, cultivating momentum toward goals that yield lasting benefit. Integrity and respect foster trust. Choosing principle over pleasure signals reliability, honesty, and maturity. Others observe the consistency of action and respond with confidence, engagement, and cooperation. Trust is a social currency that opens doors, creates opportunities, and strengthens relationship. Sacrificing short-term comfort for enduring credibility enhances influence, leadership potential, and personal impact. Long-term success requires repeated sacrifice of fleeting indulgence. Habits, behaviors, and decisions that prioritize immediate pleasure often produce incremental erosion of potential. Conversely, repeated choice of enduring principles over momentary enjoyment strengthens capacity, competence, and reputation. The process is gradual but cumulative, producing extraordinary outcomes that cannot be achieved through impulse-driven decision-making. Resilience is built through repeated discipline. Moments of temptation, laziness, or distraction are inevitable. Choosing principle over pleasure consistently reinforces self-control, strengthens willpower, and develops endurance. Resilience becomes habitual because the mind and body are conditioned to act despite immediate desire for comfort or gratification. Self-awareness deepens as long-term respect is prioritized. Each decision requires reflection on motives, consequences, and alignment with values. Observing impulses, evaluating alternatives, and choosing principle cultivates insight into personal character and behavior patterns. Self-awareness enhances judgment, emotional intelligence, and strategic thinking. Over time, the ability to assess situations and act wisely becomes instinctive. Accountability to oneself is reinforced. Choosing principle over immediate satisfaction requires personal responsibility. Each decision is consciously weighed and executed according to internal standards. This practice strengthens autonomy, confidence, and credibility, ensuring that actions are deliberate, consistent, and aligned with long-term vision. Every action taken in favor of respect compounds over time. Small decisions accumulate into patterns of behavior that define reputation, character, and influence. Immediate gratification may provide fleeting pleasure, but it cannot produce the enduring value, trust, and recognition that principled action consistently delivers. Persistence in this practice separates those who achieve greatness from those who settle for comfort. Ultimately, choosing long-term respect over short-term pleasure is the foundation of character, credibility, and achievement. It builds trust, strengthens relationships, develops self-respect, enhances focus, and reinforces discipline. Success is sustained because it is grounded in principle rather than impulsive desire. Every decision, no matter how small, shapes identity, reputation, and opportunity. By consistently prioritizing enduring respect, life is directed toward meaningful impact, genuine influence, and lasting fulfillment.
Chapter 8. Train your mind to endure boredom and repetition. Endurance of boredom and repetition is one of the most underrated skills for achieving lasting success. The mind naturally seeks novelty, excitement, and stimulation, which makes repetitive tasks feel uncomfortable, monotonous, or even intolerable. Most people avoid repetition because it triggers restlessness or frustration. Yet greatness is built on repeated practice, sustained effort, and consistent refinement of skill. Progress is rarely dramatic in its early stages. It emerges quietly through repetition and persistence. Learning to tolerate boredom is essential because it allows focus on long-term results instead of fleeting distractions. Training the mind to endure repetition develops discipline, patience, resilience, and the capacity to perform at a high level consistently. The human brain resists monotony because evolution prioritized alertness to change and novelty. When faced with repeated tasks, the mind perceives stagnation and signals discomfort. This natural response is not a flaw. It is a challenge that separates those willing to grow from those who seek only immediate pleasure. Developing mental endurance requires intentional effort. Each moment of persistence strengthens neural pathways associated with focus, self-control, and skill acquisition. Over time, what once felt tedious becomes familiar territory where progress accumulates invisibly. Repetition is the engine of mastery. Skills, habits, and behaviors are refined through repeated action. Muscles develop strength through consistent exercise, but the mind works similarly. Knowledge, competence, and expertise grow when repeated application is embraced rather than avoided. Every iteration, no matter how small or seemingly dull, builds the foundation for exceptional performance. The challenge is to act despite the absence of novelty or excitement, knowing that each repetition brings incremental improvement. Boredom tests patience. The urge to quit, seek distraction, or rush through the process is strong. Those who endure develop the ability to tolerate discomfort, control impulses, and remain committed to the task at hand. Patience becomes internalized because the mind learns that meaningful results require sustained effort, not impulsive gratification. Tolerance for monotony strengthens focus, attention to detail, and the ability to persist when immediate reward is absent. Consistency in repetition is strengthened through mindset. Viewing repetitive tasks as opportunities to grow rather than burdens reframes perception. Each repetition contributes to skill, knowledge, and confidence. The mind begins to associate repetition with progress rather than boredom. Mental conditioning through this perspective transforms tedious activity into a practice that produces measurable improvement. Over time, mental endurance becomes automatic, reducing resistance to long-term effort. The value of incremental improvement cannot be overstated. Repetition allows subtle adjustments, learning from small errors, and refining technique. These micro-improvements are invisible initially, but compound over time into exceptional capability. The person who resists boredom and persists steadily gains an advantage over those seeking constant stimulation. Mastery is built quietly in the moments most people find uninteresting or uncomfortable. Mental training develops resilience under monotony. Boredom can provoke restlessness, distraction, or discouragement. Persisting through these moments strengthens the ability to maintain focus despite internal resistance. Emotional stability is reinforced because the mind learns to manage discomfort without abandoning responsibility or purpose. Resilience cultivated in these conditions translates into performance under pressure, consistency in habit, and the ability to endure life's challenges without yielding to temptation or distraction. Repetition strengthens discipline. Each time an action is performed, despite lack of excitement, the habit of following through is reinforced. Self-discipline emerges as a result of repeated adherence to process, even when the mind seeks novelty or ease. Discipline is the bridge between intention and results, and repetition is the foundation of this bridge. The more one practices persistence in mundane or repetitive work, the stronger the capacity to act deliberately and achieve goals. Enduring boredom develops concentration. Focus improves when attention is maintained through repetition without external stimulation. The ability to concentrate under mundane circumstances transfers to complex challenges, high-pressure situations, and long-term projects. Mental endurance nurtures the capacity to stay engaged in the work that produces results rather than succumbing to distractions, impulses, or avoidance. Repetition fosters mastery of process. Many people focus solely on outcomes, but excellence is created through consistent engagement with process. Performing foundational tasks with diligence, precision, and attention teaches efficiency, technique, and skill. Mastery emerges from repetition, and expertise is a byproduct of sustained practice. Mental training allows engagement with the process itself, rather than seeking immediate result or reward. Patience grows with practice. Each repetition is an opportunity to strengthen tolerance for delayed gratification. The mind becomes accustomed to working steadily without constant feedback, recognition, or excitement. Patience learned through repetitive work transfers to all areas of life, allowing steady pursuit of goals, endurance through setbacks, and rational response to challenges. Patience and persistence together are the keys to long-term achievement. Mental endurance reinforces self-reliance. When novelty is absent, external validation is unavailable, and immediate reward is lacking, the ability to persist depends on inner drive. Self-reliance is cultivated as the mind learns to motivate itself, sustain focus, and complete tasks despite discomfort. Internal motivation strengthens confidence and independence, reducing reliance on external circumstances for progress. Repetition strengthens problem solving. As tasks are repeated, patterns, errors, and inefficiencies become apparent. The mind gains clarity, develops strategies, and refines methods. Each iteration is a chance to learn, adapt, and improve. The person willing to endure repetition develops superior analytical ability because repeated engagement fosters observation, reflection, and practical insight. Training the mind to tolerate boredom enhances emotional control. The impulse to quit, seek distraction, or avoid discomfort is resisted. Emotional responses are managed deliberately, cultivating patience, composure, and resilience. Over time, emotional equilibrium becomes habitual, allowing for sustained focus and performance in the absence of immediate stimulation. Repetition enhances confidence. Skills, knowledge, and capability grow steadily through practice. Even when progress is invisible, continued effort strengthens self-belief. The individual learns to trust the process, rely on personal ability, and act decisively. Confidence emerges as mastery accumulates, not as a result of external praise or instant reward. Habits are formed through repeated engagement. Mental endurance ensures that positive, productive routines are maintained even when unexciting. Habits built through repetition reduce reliance on motivation and willpower. Action becomes automatic, producing consistent results over time. Discipline, skill, and achievement are reinforced through habitual engagement with repetitive tasks. Focus on long-term impact strengthens commitment. Every repetition contributes to future performance, skill, and opportunity. Short-term discomfort is tolerated because the value of cumulative effort is understood. Perspective shifts from immediate stimulation to the benefits that repetition produces over months and years. This mindset strengthens perseverance and mental endurance. Repetition fosters resilience to external distractions. The ability to persist under boredom strengthens resistance to noise, social pressure, or temporary diversion. The mind becomes trained to prioritize meaningful effort over transient pleasure, producing consistent progress and reliability in all pursuits. Learning deepens with repetition. Each repeated attempt allows observation, adjustment, and refinement. Mistakes become information rather than setbacks, and incremental growth compounds into expertise. Enduring the monotony of learning ensures that comprehension, skill, and efficiency are solidified. The person willing to persist develops an advantage over those who avoid repetition.
Mental endurance fosters self-respect. Completing tasks consistently, despite monotony or discomfort, reinforces pride in work, personal capability, and integrity. Self-respect grows as actions are aligned with long-term purpose, rather than short-term desire. Confidence, independence, and motivation are strengthened through repeated demonstration of perseverance. Repetition strengthens strategic thinking. Engagement with tasks over time allows assessment of cause and effect, pattern recognition, and foresight. Each iteration provides insight into effective methods, resource allocation, and process optimization. Mental endurance develops foresight and judgment, enhancing decision-making and execution under all circumstances. Training the mind to tolerate boredom develops humility. The recognition that mastery requires effort, repetition, and patience fosters respect for process, learning, and growth. Humility encourages openness to correction, feedback, and continuous improvement, strengthening skill development and emotional maturity. Persistence grows naturally with repeated effort. Mental training reduces the instinct to quit or seek novelty. Action becomes habitual, sustained, and reliable. Persistence ensures that long-term goals are pursued steadily, despite discomfort, monotony, or lack of immediate reward. Mental endurance encourages problem-focused thinking. Rather than avoiding repetitive tasks, challenges are approached constructively. Solutions are sought, skills are refined, and insight is gained from consistent engagement. The ability to endure a monotony produces practical competence and adaptability. Emotional resilience is reinforced through repetition. Tolerance for boredom reduces susceptibility to frustration, discouragement, and impulsivity. Mental stability strengthens, producing calm, measured responses under pressure and persistent pursuit of goals even when immediate gratification is absent. Focus, patience, and persistence combine to create a powerful foundation for excellence. The person willing to train their mind through boredom and repetition builds character, skill, and capacity that others cannot match. Over time, these qualities compound into achievement, recognition, and influence that are lasting and meaningful. Ultimately, enduring boredom and repetition is not about comfort or excitement. It is about conditioning the mind to act consistently, learn deeply, and perform reliably under all circumstances. Excellence is cultivated quietly through repeated practice, attention to detail, and sustained effort. Mental endurance allows the individual to continue when others quit, to grow when others stagnate, and to achieve results that appear extraordinary because they are built on foundations invisible to those who avoid repetition.
Chapter 9. Improve yourself quietly without needing approval. Improving yourself quietly without seeking approval is one of the most powerful practices for long-term growth. Most people seek validation from others before taking action, waiting for recognition, praise, or encouragement to feel justified in their efforts. This reliance on external affirmation creates a dependency that limits progress. True growth happens when the motivation comes from within, driven by personal values, goals, and desire to become better. When improvement is internalized, it becomes sustainable, independent of opinion, and resistant to distraction or judgment. Every step taken to enhance knowledge, skill, character, and resilience builds unseen strength that compounds over time. Acting without seeking approval frees energy, focus, and attention to concentrate solely on meaningful progress rather than performance for others. Self-improvement without recognition requires clarity of purpose. Goals must be defined according to personal standards rather than external expectations. When actions are aligned with internal values, effort is directed efficiently, and decisions are consistent with vision rather than popularity. This alignment fosters confidence and accountability because every choice serves personal growth, not social approval. People who wait for recognition often limit themselves, delaying action, and settling for mediocrity because the external audience is unpredictable, inconsistent, and unreliable. Relying on internal motivation eliminates that uncertainty and builds discipline that is independent of circumstance. Focus develops naturally when approval is removed from the equation. The mind is less distracted by comparisons, judgments, or praise, and is free to concentrate on meaningful tasks. Energy previously wasted on self-consciousness is now invested in deliberate practice, study, and refinement. Deep work becomes possible because attention is directed toward improvement itself, rather than toward how actions are perceived. Quiet growth allows mastery to develop invisibly, accumulating into competence, skill, and strength that will later manifest in results without fanfare or external prompting. Consistency is easier when approval is in. Motivation anchored in external praise is unstable because recognition is irregular and often delayed. Internal drive produces sustained action, repetition, and engagement, even when no one is observing. Habits are formed and reinforced because they are chosen for personal benefit rather than reward. Over time, consistency produces results that surpass anything achieved through sporadic effort for attention or acknowledgement. The quiet worker becomes the silent architect of their own excellence. Improving quietly strengthens humility. Acting without needing recognition removes the desire for public validation or accolades. Growth becomes a private pursuit, valued for its intrinsic benefit rather than social perception. Humility develops because the focus shifts from impressing others to becoming better internally. The individual is free to make mistakes, learn, and adapt without concern for judgment, creating an environment where experimentation, reflection, and refinement are natural and unpressured. Self-reliance emerges from this practice. Dependence on approval reduces autonomy and fosters doubt. By focusing solely on internal standards, individuals learn to trust their judgment, effort, and capacity to improve. Confidence grows because competence is built independently of others' opinion. The ability to persist in learning, practicing, and refining behavior strengthens self-trust, reducing susceptibility to criticism, distraction, or comparison. Internal validation is stable, immediate, and enduring, unlike the unpredictable praise or judgment of external observers. Patience is cultivated when improvement is quiet, without the pressure of performing for others. The individual can tolerate slow progress, incremental growth, and repeated trial and error. Each step is measured against personal standards, rather than public recognition, allowing focus on mastery rather than appearance. Patience deepens understanding, strengthens character, and nurtures resilience, as repeated action produces skill, wisdom, and insight over time. Reflection is enhanced through quiet growth. The absence of audience allows honest evaluation of strength, weaknesses, and habits. Mistakes are observed and corrected without fear of judgment, and achievements are celebrated internally rather than broadcast for approval. This reflection accelerates learning because the mind is attentive, open, and honest. Quiet improvement develops awareness, insight, and adaptability that cannot occur when effort is motivated by recognition rather than principle. Improving yourself quietly also strengthens emotional control. When actions are independent of external response, moods are less influenced by criticism, envy, or praise. Emotional stability allows focus to remain on constructive action rather than reactive behavior. This control produces clarity in decision-making, steadiness under pressure, and persistence in the face of distraction or challenge. Growth becomes a product of intentional choice rather than emotional fluctuation. Resilience develops as the individual practices perseverance without validation. Challenges, failures, and setbacks are experienced privately, and solutions are sought diligently. Reliance on personal judgment fosters problem-solving skills, creativity, and adaptability. Resilience becomes a habit because the mind is trained to act despite uncertainty, boredom, or delayed results. Silent persistence produces a quiet confidence that carries through all areas of life, reinforcing capability and independence. Skill acquisition is accelerated through quiet practice. Repetition, study, and refinement occur without fear of criticism or performance pressure. Mistakes are accepted as learning rather than threats to reputation. The mind becomes adept at experimentation, feedback integration, and technique improvement because actions are motivated by mastery rather than display. The quiet worker progresses faster because the focus is uninterrupted, deliberate, and self-directed. Discipline is reinforced when approval is unnecessary. Each decision to act for personal development strengthens the habit of self-regulation. Internal motivation ensures adherence to principles, even under discomfort, distraction, or temptation. Discipline is no longer dependent on external surveillance or expectation, but becomes embedded in character. This internalized control allows consistent effort, focus, and progress over the long term. Confidence grows organically through repeated quiet effort. As competence accumulates, belief in capability emerges naturally, without reliance on praise. Success is measured against internal benchmarks rather than public perception. Confidence is stable because it is rooted in proven skill, persistence, and understanding, rather than fluctuating social approval. The quiet achiever becomes self-assured, grounded, and prepared to act decisively when opportunity arises. Focus is sharpened when attention is internal. Distractions from social comparison, validation, or recognition diminish. Energy is channeled entirely into productive action, learning, and refinement. The mind becomes attuned to detail, nuance, and progress. Quiet improvement cultivates clarity of purpose, heightened awareness, and the capacity to perform consistently at a high level. Habits develop more effectively without approval. Actions repeated for personal benefit rather than external attention embed naturally into routine. Motivation becomes intrinsic, and behavior is more likely to be sustained. Habits formed quietly are less vulnerable to disruption because they are grounded in personal commitment rather than reaction to external pressure or expectation. Creativity and innovation are enhanced. Quiet practice allows experimentation, failure, and adjustment without fear of judgment. The mind is free to explore alternatives, refine processes, and develop unique solutions. Growth becomes original and adaptive, rather than constrained by expectation or comparison. Creativity flourishes when effort is independent of external approval. Persistence becomes internalized. The individual acts consistently regardless of observation, feedback, or recognition. Repeated effort reinforces the habit of endurance, creating momentum over time. Quiet persistence produces results that often surpass those achieved by individuals motivated primarily by attention or validation. Learning becomes deeper through private focus. Each iteration is carefully observed, analyzed, and refined. Mistakes are treated as opportunities for insight rather than embarrassment. Knowledge and skill accumulate internally, building a foundation for long-term performance, expertise, and mastery. Quiet improvement allows reflection and repetition to reinforce understanding. Self-respect grows as actions align with internal standards. Each choice to improve for personal reasons strengthens confidence, character, and independence. Self-respect reinforces motivation, ensures integrity, and reduces reliance on external affirmation. Over time, the individual becomes guided by principle rather than expectation, producing growth that is durable, consistent, and meaningful. Strategic thinking is strengthened by quiet improvement. The mind evaluates progress, obstacles, and opportunities based on personal goals and values. Decisions are informed, deliberate, and aligned with long-term objectives. Without distraction from social comparison or approval,
strategic insight develops naturally, producing wiser, more effective action. Independence becomes a hallmark of personal growth. Acting without seeking approval reduces susceptibility to peer pressure, judgment, and social influence. The individual develops autonomy in thought, behavior, and decision-making. Independence allows focus on meaningful action rather than distraction by external perception, producing consistent progress over time. Accountability is reinforced internally. The individual monitors performance, evaluates effort, and adjusts behavior without reliance on oversight. Responsibility for success or failure rests entirely with the self, strengthening integrity, discipline, and reliability. Quiet self-improvement cultivates the ability to act with purpose and maintain high standards consistently. Results eventually become visible. Quiet effort may appear unnoticed for a long time, but cumulative growth produces noticeable skill, influence, and achievement. When external recognition arrives, it is a reflection of sustained internal work rather than reactionary effort. The quiet improver gains both competence and credibility simultaneously because their development is authentic, deliberate, and internally motivated. The mind becomes adaptable through silent improvement. Challenges, new tasks, and unfamiliar situations are approached with confidence because preparation has occurred without reliance on guidance or praise. Internal growth produces flexibility, initiative, and the ability to perform under diverse conditions. Adaptability and competence reinforce each other as skills are refined independently of external judgment. Emotional stability is enhanced. Quiet improvement reduces dependence on praise, envy, or criticism. The individual maintains equilibrium regardless of others' perception, allowing sustained focus and consistent action. Emotional strength supports resilience, problem-solving, and effective decision-making in all circumstances. Ultimately, improving quietly without seeking approval develops discipline, resilience, competence, self-respect, focus, and emotional control. Growth becomes a natural result of internal motivation rather than external expectation. Habits, skills, and character compound over time, producing results that are reliable, sustainable, and extraordinary. Those who master self-improvement without recognition become the silent architects of their own greatness, prepared to achieve, lead, and influence without dependence on external validation.
Chapter 10. Become reliable to yourself and everything changes. Becoming reliable to yourself is the foundation of every meaningful change in life. Most people fail not because of external circumstances but because they cannot depend on themselves. Promises made to others are only as strong as the promises kept to yourself. If you cannot follow through on commitments to your own standards, consistency and trust will be absent from every part of life. Personal reliability is not built overnight. It is cultivated through repeated actions, attention to detail, and unwavering honesty with oneself. Every decision, every task, and every goal becomes an opportunity to strengthen your credibility internally. When you learn to honor your word to yourself, the way you show up for the world shifts dramatically. Reliability begins with clarity of intention. Knowing what you expect from yourself and defining standards for behavior is critical. Many people drift through life without consistent personal benchmarks, leaving success to chance or circumstance. Establishing clear commitments to yourself, daily practices, ethical principles, and personal goals creates a framework for consistent action. When intentions are defined, actions naturally follow. Clarity removes excuses and uncertainty, replacing them with purpose, structure, and measurable direction. Consistency is at the heart of reliability. Repeated action, even in small ways, proves to yourself that you can be trusted. Consistency reinforces discipline, strengthens habits, and builds momentum. Every small task completed reliably compounds into significant growth over time. Conversely, inconsistent action erodes confidence and invites doubt, frustration, and failure. Reliability is both the product and the driver of consistent action, creating a self-reinforcing cycle that powers personal development. Accountability to yourself is essential. External enforcement is temporary. Internal accountability is permanent. Holding yourself responsible for deadlines, effort, and personal standards cultivates integrity and self-trust. Avoiding blame, excuses, or rationalizations strengthens confidence and mental clarity. Internal accountability ensures that progress is measured, deliberate, and under your control. Those who become reliable to themselves cultivate a mindset where challenges are faced head-on and commitments are fulfilled without oversight. Self-discipline grows through repeated practice of reliability. Each action kept according to personal standard strengthens willpower and reinforces self-respect. The ability to start, persist, and complete tasks under your own guidance trains both mind and body to act intentionally. Discipline is not punishment, it is the structure that allows capability, consistency, and resilience to flourish. Reliability and discipline are inseparable because one requires the other to maintain stability and growth. Emotional strength is developed through reliability. When you can count on yourself, doubt, fear, and indecision lose power. Challenges are approached with confidence because you trust your capacity to follow through. Setbacks become opportunities for improvement rather than sources of discouragement. Mental stability arises from a history of proven effort, measured action, and adherence to personal standards. Every task completed as promised strengthens emotional resilience and reduces vulnerability to distraction or discouragement. Reliability shapes decision-making. When the mind knows that commitments will be honored, choices are clearer and more deliberate. Hesitation caused by fear of failure diminishes because a foundation of consistent action has already been established. Decision-making becomes proactive rather than reactive, driven by personal standards rather than external pressure or expectation. Each reliable choice reinforces the capacity to act with confidence, creating a chain of intentional behavior that accumulates into meaningful outcomes. Trust in relationships grows when personal reliability is established. People observe patterns of consistent action and respond with confidence. Reliability becomes visible in behavior, communication, and fulfillment of obligation. Others notice the dependability of those who honor commitments to themselves, which naturally extends to commitments to others. Influence, respect, and opportunity increase when internal reliability forms the foundation for external engagement. Personal integrity becomes evident in every interaction because actions are predictable, deliberate, and trustworthy. Focus is strengthened by reliability. When attention is directed toward what has been promised to oneself, distractions lose influence. Goals are approached methodically and with attention to detail. Mental energy is conserved because tasks are completed according to plan, reducing the chaos that arises from procrastination or indecision. Concentration improves because the mind trusts the framework of commitment, producing clarity, purpose, and direction in every endeavor. Habits are fortified through the practice of reliability. Repetition of deliberate action according to personal standard embeds behaviors into routine. Habits formed through internal accountability are more resilient to temptation, fatigue, or circumstance. Reliability ensures that daily practices are maintained even when external observation or reward is absent. The accumulation of reliable habits produces long-term competence, health, skill, and personal strength. Resilience grows from self-reliability. Life is unpredictable and challenges are inevitable, but those who are dependable to themselves approach obstacles with preparation and perseverance. Challenges are met with measured effort rather than panic or avoidance. Reliability reinforces endurance because the mind knows that effort is sustained and intentional. Persistence becomes a natural response when the foundation of self-trust is strong. Personal growth accelerates when action is consistent with internal commitments. Each reliable behavior produces skill, knowledge, and strength that are cumulative. Growth becomes predictable because the individual can depend on their capacity to act deliberate. Skill acquisition, mental fortitude, and emotional stability all benefit from the cumulative effect of reliable action. Growth becomes both tangible and inevitable when the foundation of personal reliability is established. Time management improves through reliability. Committing to oneself creates structure and prioritization. Tasks are approached systematically rather than haphazardly. Each commitment honored respects the value of time, allowing productivity to come. Reliability ensures that focus is not wasted on distraction or delay, reinforcing efficiency and effectiveness in every pursuit. Over time, time itself becomes an ally because each action is executed with intentionality. Self-respect flourishes with reliability. Fulfilling promises to oneself fosters pride, confidence, and integrity. Every completed task reinforces self-worth and belief in personal capacity. Self-respect motivates continued action, sustains effort, and strengthens character. When internal reliability becomes habitual, self-esteem is reinforced by repeated evidence of competence and accountability rather than external approval or recognition. Preparation becomes second nature. Reliable people anticipate tasks, challenges, and opportunities because they trust their capacity to follow through. Procrastination is minimized because internal standards demand action. Planning, foresight, and initiative are reinforced through consistent application of personal reliability. Being prepared creates advantage, enhances adaptability, and reduces stress in situations that might overwhelm those without the habit of internal dependability. Consistency under pressure is strengthened by self-reliability. Difficult circumstances often challenge commitment, focus, and composure. Those who can depend on themselves maintain standards even when external conditions are unfavorable. Mental, emotional, and behavioral stability arise because reliability is internalized. Others notice this steadiness, creating credibility, respect, and influence that are impossible without the ability to act reliably under pressure. Accountability for results is strengthened when self-reliability is present. Success and failure are directly linked to personal effort and adherence to standards. Excuses lose power because the individual has demonstrated the capacity to execute intentionally and consistent. Responsibility is internalized, producing a mindset where results are a reflection of action rather than chance. This clarity enhances focus, decision-making, and strategic planning. Confidence grows through reliable action. Each time a task is completed as promised, the mind accumulates proof of capability. Confidence is grounded in evidence, rather than ego or wishful thinking. Self-reliant individuals approach challenges decisively, because their past performance demonstrates competence and follow-through. This confidence is stable because it is built on consistent internal reliability rather than external validation. Relationships are strengthened when the individual is reliable. Dependable behavior fosters trust, respect, and cooperation. When commitments are fulfilled consistently, others feel secure and confident in engagement. Reliability produces influence because people recognize the pattern of deliberate, intentional action. Trust compounds over time as reliability becomes evident in behavior, communication, and consistency of effort. Opportunity expands when personal reliability is established. People naturally seek collaboration with those who follow through. Career, personal growth, and influence increase because others can count on consistent action. Reliability becomes a form of leverage that opens doors, strengthens reputation, and multiplies impact. Success is accelerated because internal dependability creates trust, credibility, and recognition. Focus on self-reliability reduces stress,
Uncertainty, doubt, and unpredictability diminish because the individual knows they can trust themselves to act effectively. Decisions are clearer, priority are maintained, and energy is conserved for meaningful work. Mental clarity and emotional balance arise naturally when internal dependability is reinforced repeatedly. Growth in skill and character is cumulative. Each act of reliability compounds, producing competence, credibility, and resilience. The individual becomes capable of executing tasks, managing responsibilities, and navigating challenges at higher levels than those who act inconsistently. Incremental reliability produces extraordinary capability over time. Integrity is reinforced by reliability. When personal commitments are honored consistently, honesty, accountability, and moral clarity are strengthened. Actions align with words, creating alignment between values and behavior. Integrity becomes visible in every interaction because reliability is a reflection of principle enacted through deliberate action. Ultimately, becoming reliable to yourself transforms every area of life. Trust in your own ability to act, maintain discipline, and uphold commitments produces confidence, focus, competence, and resilience. Relationships deepen, opportunity expand, and personal influence grows because others perceive the consistency and strength that comes from internal dependability. When reliability becomes habitual, every decision, every task, and every interaction is infused with trustworthiness, accountability, and purpose. Life changes fundamentally when the foundation of personal reliability is established, and every goal, relationship, and achievement becomes possible because the individual knows they can be counted on above all else.